Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV. It is a busy, busy week for Eddie Howe's side at Newcastle United. Have 3 games this week. They've got a draw against Manchester United. We'll get Sam's reaction on that point at Old Trafford in just a second. But it's Everton tomorrow night on Amazon Prime. Make sure you get Amazon Prime, a big sponsor of Newcastle Fans TV as well. It's the only place in the UK that you can watch Newcastle United versus Everton. And believe it or not, Shay Given will be the pundit for Newcastle United, the second in terms of the all-time appearance holder for Newcastle United. What a great club he played for, isn't it? Right? Third, I thought he was second. Is he third?
Oh, you're making me doubt myself now. I'm sure he's third.
Ooh, get in the comments if he's second or third in the all-time appearance race. I know he's not first, unfortunately. He would have been first if he stayed another season. But that's a story in his book, so make sure you buy his book. But yeah, it's Everton tomorrow night on Amazon, and then it's Spurs. Big game for Newcastle on Sunday. But it's all about Everton tomorrow night. Sam, before we talk Everton, briefly, a point against Manchester United at Old Trafford. You would have taken that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
You said briefly. I couldn't be more brief than that. No, it was good. We had the better of the first half, of course, didn't we? But it was a tremendous defensive display in the second half. Defence had been superb, as we'll come on to Eddie Howe's quotes about the Newcastle defence, and in particular Sven Botman and Fabian Schär was superb. On Sunday, Joe Linton's got to be scoring from there, hitting the bar and the post. But there was a lot of crap from Manchester United, and they had the chances as well. Rashford at the end should have buried that chance, but a lot of shenanigans from Manchester United, which thankfully didn't pay off.
3 quick questions for you, just yes or no. Callum Wilson penalty first half, yes or no?
Nope.
Ooh. Get in the comments if you agree with Sam, because I think he's one of the very few Newcastle fans who doesn't think that's a penalty for Callum Wilson. The second question, Ronaldo's goal.
It wasn't a goal, so it's not even a thing.
And should Manchester United have had a penalty on for Jadon Sancho?
No.
So I agree with 2 out of the 3. I'm sure you can tell me which one I don't agree with. But yeah, it is, again, really, really interesting. Get your thoughts on everything that Sam's just said there, because I disagree with him on the Callum Wilson one. I think it is a penalty. So please tell me why. Either I'm right or Sam's right, or we're both wrong.
I'm right because Danny Mills thinks it's a penalty. And if you follow Danny Mills' punditry, you will know he's wrong about everything. So, yeah, I don't know. The ball had already gone. I'm just trying to look at it from a neutral's perspective. I'd grab your hand off for that penalty.
What are you doing that for?
I'm just trying to call it as I see it. I don't want to be unashamedly biased all the time. But it's one of them. I think a draw was a perfectly fair result on Sunday. But we need 3 points tomorrow night.
We do need 3 points tomorrow night. And Eddie Howe has done his press conference for tonight's game. The first point I want to talk about is what Lee Lawler said about a magnificent, elegant man was Fabian Schär. Said it was a 10 out of 10 performance. There was a slight issue potentially whether he will be involved tomorrow night. This is what Eddie Howe had to say in regards to Fabian Schär. He's absolutely fine. He's been nursing a foot injury for a while now. We actually found out from a very good source, mind, that was the case. He's managed it very well, but it just reared its head towards the end of the Man United game, in which Jamal Lascelles came on for the last few minutes, but I think he'll be fine. A big boost, Samuel.
It is. He was fantastic, wasn't he? And he's been fantastic all season. He's been fantastic since Eddie Howe came in, hasn't he? I mean, the qualms of, we can't play in a flat back 4, they've just completely disappeared. So take that, Steve Bruce and Rafa as well. So he's been brilliant. Whether he's been playing alongside Byrne, whether he's been playing alongside Botman, he's been the mainstay, hasn't he? Pretty much. He's been absolutely sensational, and long may it continue. And just remember how much he cost us as well all them years ago, 3.5 million. What a bargain.
It's certainly a bargain. It's been at the club for so many years. Now it seems like, obviously with the Rafa years and the Bruce years, and then obviously coming back into, the Eddie Howe years, if you want to call it that, but he's always really been a player that we've never been decided whether he can play 2 or 3 at the back. he's proved everybody who disagreed that he couldn't play it to the back. I had my own issues and worries with it, but he certainly proved me wrong. But maybe it's just good management. Who knows? But Eddie Howe mentioned that it is 3 games this week. It's going to be very rare for Newcastle. They're going to play 3 games a week, especially when you're not in European competition. And he does mention about that factor, Sam, doesn't he, in regards to the 3 games throughout October, obviously with Manchester United, Everton, and Tottenham. It is very, very difficult, and you can see what he's saying there. Everyone feels a little bit better after a good night's sleep, but you kind of just hoping this week no injuries whatsoever, because you're going to be out for maybe 1-2 games.
Yeah, this was when he was specifically asked about Bruno and Kieran Trippier. Obviously, there are 2 key players. 2 of our key players, I suppose. Bruno, obviously, is the man that makes everything tick in the middle, because I don't know if you were aware, Johnny, but we've got Bruno in the middle. So they're obviously mightily important. And, I mean, you put Callum Wilson in that as well this week now with the Isak injury news. How do you manage your squad? Will there be changes tomorrow in preparation for Spurs on Sunday? Will there not be any changes for tomorrow night, and he'll make some changes for Spurs on Sunday? Who knows? So it's going to be an interesting starting 11 when the team news come out at 6:30 tomorrow evening.
Yeah, we'll find out what that team news is, as Sam rightly says now, before kickoff. The 7:30 kickoff, remember, on Amazon Prime tomorrow. So if you have Amazon, make sure it's not 7:45. The coverage starts at 7 o'clock, which the legendary Jim Rosenthal will actually be presenting as well. Sam will definitely know who I'm talking about there.
Really?
Yeah, Leon Osman from the Everton Persuasion, but Shay Given and Jim Rosenthal.
Leon Osman, fun fact, has been on co-coms the last couple of 3 Newcastle games now for like the official Premier League feed. I mean, don't tell me how I know that. Just coincidence. I watched on Sky Sports, but also it'll be quite a good dynamic there, because Osman, in theory, should know what he's talking about.
We'll find out on Amazon tomorrow night.
Yes.
But you talk about the team in general, Sam, and the team spirit is something that Eddie Howe was asked about this morning at his pre-match press conference. It could not be any better at the minute, especially the last couple of games. And you can see what Eddie Howe says. Near enough every game, I've been proud of the effort given. I think that's the minimum, isn't it? The commitment shown. I can't fault the players here for how they've attacked, how brave they've been, the energy, the physical effort shown. I can't fault anyone. I think that little bit there, the energy and the physical effort shown, Sam, that's something that should be just a given with players. But when you see it on a daily basis, and you see it particularly against Brentford, when it pays dividends in the end, you just can't be more proud of watching your team.
Absolutely. They've continued this spirit that they bought into towards the end of last season, where everything was just phenomenal and on fire and just great. That's carried on, and even the games where we've not got the results, it's been a performance to be proud of. Frustrating at times with obviously Bournemouth and Palace maybe, but the Liverpool defeat, you've got to be proud with that performance that they put in, and the City at home as well, the draw there, you got to be proud with the performance they put in. And I would say so again on Sunday as well against Manchester United. We've got a horrendous record at Old Trafford. We were carrying a few injuries, a few knocks, and to come away with a point is still pretty good going. So long may this spirit in the camp continue.
I hope it's not draw Castle United for too much longer. I hope Newcastle can't get back to many ways.
This is why I say we need 3 points tomorrow night, don't we? We should be going unbeaten at home. St James's Park is a fortress again this season. So yeah, to get 3 points is pretty necessary tomorrow. It continues that momentum. You don't want to stutter and draw too many home games, do you?
Of course you don't. And for anyone in the comments, Sam, you're not going to tell anybody because I know you probably know the answer. Who was the last team to beat Newcastle in the Premier League at St James's Park? Get that in the comments as well. Clue, it was last season. That's how good we've been at home this season. We're talking about players that have done very, very well for Newcastle. I'll give you a clue who we're going to be talking about next, Sam. He's let me down. He's actually let me down. He's let me down. Awful. Sven Botman. There you go. About 10 seconds too late, like.
No.
Eddie Howe.
I just wanted to see what you'd do.
Eddie Howe's a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. Sam's a huge fan. I think he was every Newcastle United fan's first choice centre half that they wanted to buy in the summer. And look at some of the. I'm not going to read everything. Well, January as well, I suppose. But I'm not going to read everything that's on screen. I'll let you digest that in. But
he just says basically he's really good.
Good, he is really good. But I have to be honest, Sam. He's barely put a foot wrong, hasn't he?
I know, he's great, isn't he? This is what I mean. Like, he was first choice centre back. They identified him in January. Were willing to wait for him, not being buggered about by Lille. Held their own, and it's just paid dividends. Gone back in, beat AC Milan to him. You know, so it's. I mean, he's in an exclusive club, Sven Botman, with alongside Jeff Hendrick, for players to sign for Newcastle instead of AC Milan, it's just what a club to be in. What a club to be in. Jeff and Sven.
I wonder what Jeff and Sven get up
to. Well, I don't know, because Jeff's in London, isn't it? Well, Reading. Is he Reading or QPR? I always get mixed up.
Reading.
Yeah, he wasn't at QPR last season. I don't know. Anyway, Jeff Hendrick's not here anymore. Sven Botman is, and I said back in January he could be our company, and he's proven it. So he's still 22 years old. I'm absolutely baffled why he's not getting a call up to the Netherlands squad, and they're still putting him in their under 21s. I don't get that at all. That's utterly bizarre. Who have they got that's better than him at the moment? And I know you're going to say Van Dijk, but in terms of form,
there's always that argument, but I think Van Dijk showed he's probably still the best centre half in the world with that performance against Manchester City on Sunday. That's a separate conversation altogether.
Yeah, but Holland play with 2 centre backs or 3. I don't know. How is he?
Or 4 or 5?
Well, they're crazy, man. Look at how many centre backs. How can he not be one? How is he not even getting into that squad? I don't get it.
Yeah. There is a current poll, by the way, if you want to get involved in the comments section as well in the live chat. Who's going to win? Newcastle, Everton, or a draw? 87% of you. I think 86.9% of Newcastle United fans, I think that Newcastle are going to get all 3 points tomorrow night. Sam, I don't think anyone's actually said who Newcastle's last defeat was in the Premier League at St James's Park. It was Liverpool. Naby Keita with their only goal of the day. It was a pretty drab performance. It was a lunchtime kickoff towards the back end of the season. But the reason why I'm going to mention Liverpool very briefly, Jurgen Klopp. He loves talking about ceilings, and Eddie Howe had to kind of back his man in terms of Dan Ashworth. I think it was nice to see Newcastle's manager kind of just show, I'll back my man. I'm going to back, my team, my club. He went on to say what Dan meant there's no ceiling, it's just to our ambition. He says Newcastle said there's no ceiling for the club. He's right. There's no ceiling for Newcastle. Congratulations. This is what Jurgen Klopp said, I should say. There is no ceiling for Newcastle. Congratulations. Some of the clubs have ceilings. We cannot act like them. It's not possible.
They can't act like us?
They can't act like us. They can act like us right now, can't they? But they can't act like us in 3-4 years. Is that what Klopp's thinking? Or do you think it's just
they're still spending over twice as much money than us on pretty much every single position? How much was Botman?
30 million.
How much was Van Dijk?
75.
How much was Isak?
63, roughly.
How much was Darwin Núñez?
Well, the BBC have put 64 million, but I think it's a bit more than that. But I'll go with what the BBC has said. It's a little more, but I think it's wrong.
How much was Nick Pope?
Altogether, it could be 10 million, but Newcastle have only paid 3 million this summer.
How much was Alisson?
60 odd million. You could get 20 Nick Popes for Alisson.
Yeah, and their commercial revenues 5 times the size of ours at the moment. The ambitions that we've still got miles to go before we get to the levels of that. But it's just Klopp just diverting away from his team having a pathetic start to the season by their standards. Howe's response was brilliant and everything I expected it to be, a more calculated, measured, emotionless, factual, everything you want. And he's defending the club that he works for and loves. So good on Eddie Howe. And Klopp's just, it's the beginning of the end for him at Liverpool.
Big statement by Mr. Mulnick. Do you agree or disagree with what
I just get wound up about just crap like that. It's just utter drivel. Just get
Did you hear Newcastle fans at Old Trafford? Oh, what a feeling when you've got no fucking ceiling.
I love that. I love that. There you go. Leaves in the comments. If Nathan Ake can get into the Dutch squad, Sven bloody Botman can.
So can you, Samuel. So can you.
Well, get into the Dutch squad. I doubt it.
Let's talk about Everton, because Eddie Howe has certainly not taken Frank Lampard's side for granted. They definitely made progress. Obviously, it was a difficult season for the Toffees last year. They were stuck in a bit of a rot, weren't they? The games we had against them last season were very tight. Obviously, 1-0 at Goodison, 3-1 at St James's Park. We anticipate a similar test. They've recruited well. They have a very physical style. There'll be a threat in transition and set pieces, but we back ourselves at home. They say they're a threat at set pieces, but Everton haven't scored a set pieces so far this season. Touch wood.
We're going to get Moped in the box tomorrow now, aren't we?
Or Connor Cody or James Tarkowski.
And it's all your fault.
Oh, well. Sam, let's get Everton's last 11, which they were beaten 2-0 by Tottenham. Harry Kane getting a penalty. And then Pierre-Emile Højbjerg scoring for Spurs on Saturday evening. I know.
Yeah.
But Spurs obviously moving up in the table. Everton just below that middle bit of the table. So we'll get the Premier League table towards the end of today. As Sam gets the screen ready for Everton's last 11. As you can see, little hands in goal, playing 5 at the back. Do you expect Everton to go 5 at the back tomorrow?
Is it 5 at the back, though? Because since when has Dwight McNeil been a left wing back?
Maybe it was just for that game. I'll say Mikolenko maybe was left back, and then Dwight McNeil moved a little bit further forward. But
that to me looks like a 4-2-2 or a 4-3-3 with Gray and McNeil on the wings, and then you could have or 4-2-3-1 with Iwobi as the 10. That formation the BBC have got there, I wouldn't take for granted. That there's a lot of flexibility in that formation, but there's some good players on there. I remember obviously we beat them at home last season, didn't we? And then relatively quick turnaround. We lost away at home, and it was a terrible game, wasn't it? Terrible game. But you know they've obviously strengthened in the summer. Not all with like overly glamorous signings either. Like your Mopes of this world is by no way a glamorous signing, but is doing a job for him. The Connor Cody deal is fantastic for Everton, and I don't understand why Wolves have done that to this day. It's madness what Wolves have done, especially the start there Wolves have had. And obviously they snagged James Tarkowski as well, and to quote our legendary striker. So it's going to be a tricky game. It's not one to take for granted, but look, you line our team up against theirs, even with a few injuries, I would say you'd have more Newcastle players in a combined 11 than you would Everton.
I would agree, but I'll tell you who has really impressed me is Onana. He obviously he turned down West Ham, which was probably a little bit surprising. I mean, I would say Everton are a bigger football club than West Ham, but you look at where West Ham and Everton are right now. West Ham playing European football, last couple of years, and I was a bit surprised he turned them down in the end to go to Everton. But he's probably fell in love with the Lampard kind of management style, someone similar potentially, and he seems to have done well. He played against Aston Villa. Obviously, he made a mistake for the goal for Everton, but retaliated within a couple of months by getting a goal for himself. He will be a threat. He's got a big stature around him. He's like 6'3", 6'4". He's a big lad as well, Sam. So Newcastle are going to have to be on their guard. Do you think Joe Linton will be looking at potentially trying to make it a bit more uncomfortable for him?
It's going to be tough because I remember when we played him last season, Decore absolutely bossed Joe Linton, bossed him. So it's not a foregone conclusion that Joe Linton's going to dominate the midfield. It's going to be an interesting battle, and I like the battles in midfield that we have at the moment because we're obviously a lot more competitive in there than what we used to be. It depends. Will Willett come back in? I mean, is this a game to rest Bruno? I hope not, because I want him to play every game. It's going to be an interesting team sheet come 6:30 tomorrow night, and I'm not nervous to see what Howe comes up with because he's got to rotate his squad at some point this week, whatever you do. But is this the game to do it, or do you go all out for 3 points and risk maybe another player or two getting a knock and being unavailable for the weekend? I don't know. It's a tricky one, but yeah, the midfield battle is going to be key tomorrow night for definite.
Briefly, Anthony Gordon, is he Everton's biggest threat? And if he is, how do you keep him quiet?
Kieran Trippier.
Easy as that?
Yes. Unless they switch him to the right, in which case, is this a game to bring Matt Targett back? I don't know what that was. Is this a game to bring Matt Targett back? Possibly. I think it is. Dan Burn's been brilliant, and it's harsh, but again, the squad's got to be rotated, and he was starting to look a little vulnerable on Sunday, wasn't he?
Just a little bit. But Eddie Howe has talked about a couple of players who will definitely not be involved whatsoever. The first I'm going to talk about is Alexander Isak, who's not going to be involved. Gutted about that, yeah. And look, as he says, he's not going to be available till after the World Cup. So if Newcastle do beat Crystal Palace in the League Cup, there's a League Cup game before that Leicester City game, which is scheduled for Boxing Day. But I think Amazon kind of gave it away. They are looking potentially moving that Newcastle game to the 27th of December at 3:00. So just keep an eye out. It's very imminent, those Christmas and New Year fixtures. So you'll see it on Newcastle Fans TV Twitter as soon as it's announced. But yeah, very frustrating for Alexander Isak. He's only played 3 games. Newcastle scored 2 goals. We all know that. But he's not going to be involved from now until December. But hopefully he can have a good, strong second half of the season. And hopefully, because like he says towards the end, he is young. He's desperate to make a mark, but he's got a long future ahead of him. So look, it will be interesting to see what happens. Yeah, it's good. But it's one of those things, though, Sam. It happens, and you're going to pick up injuries. But at least now we've got a couple of players that can kind of come in and do a job. And in terms of Callum Wilson, we know he can do a job. Chris Wood wouldn't surprise me if he starts. We'll mention the starting 11 very, very shortly, though.
And again, this is what happens when you sign international players. They go away on international duty, they come back injured. Thank you very much. So this is one of them times where he's got injured by Sweden. So I'm assuming they're covering the cost of his wages, a la Michael Owen from all them years ago.
You can't say that name. You can't say that name because you know what? I know someone called Pete Davey who could knock him out. He's in the comments. That's why I'm mentioning him right now. He would certainly knock out Michael Owen. I remember when you seen him at Burton, Sam, and you said he looked after you or something. With his hugging technique. Is that what you mentioned on video?
I'd feel safe.
Good evening, Pete. Let's mention Alan Saint-Maximin because I know Sam and Pete are huge fans of Alan Saint-Maximin. He's not going to be involved either. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge if he can play some minutes.
Annoying as well, isn't it? After, we gave him a pep talk the day before the City game. He obviously plays how he did against City, unplayable, and then gets a wonder goal against Wolves, and then he gets injured. So, I mean, I'm not saying it was all down to us that he was on fire, but maybe like 0.001%. It's gutting, again, because this is a game-changing player. He could do it all, and, fully fit, he'd have been terrorising Manchester United at the weekend, and he'd be having Seamus Coleman on toast tomorrow night. So it's another one that's absolutely devastating, but hopefully he is back before the World Cup, and, he can terrorise Chelsea just before the World Cup starts.
If I was Eddie Howe, I'd be thinking, can I get him on the bench for Aston Villa? A week on Saturday, maybe 1 day training, 1 day not, 1 day training, 1 day not, just kind of almost slowly getting back involved. Because if he's on the bench against Aston Villa, my God, Steven Gerrard, if he's still in the job at Aston Villa, he'll be absolutely crapping himself, Sam.
In regards to Steven Gerrard, I told you also.
Well,
you wanted him as Newcastle manager, don't lie. And I said, no, shite. Him, Lampard, forget it. No.
Unai Emery, what happened to him, eh? What happened?
Yeah, I stand by that. I'd good evening, everyone. I wouldn't have minded Emery, but, I'm very happy that we've got Eddie Howe. I think it was mainly Carl, wasn't it, that wanted Steven Gerrard? Didn't he say it on 5 Live that he wanted Steven Gerrard? Oof.
That's embarrassing. Oof. That's embarrassing. That's awful.
Have I said anything stupid on Sky?
Not on Sky, but you've definitely said some things that are quite stupid. You did play in an FA Cup final.
Oh, that's just so silly. That was like 2 years ago. Is the clip still on it? It's probably not, actually. No,
I'm sure Lee can find one.
Yeah, fine. I love Keith.
Yes, I'll tell you who I like as well, Sam. John Joe Shelby. Now, he'll definitely be on the bench tomorrow. If you're drawing 70 minutes in or 65 minutes in and you want a bit more creativity, is he the man to bring on?
No, you bring Loris Karius on. No, possibly. Yeah, absolutely. Whether or not he'll get his passing range straight away, I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's not like Shelby makes long bursting runs late into the box, is it? He starts to play. So if you're chasing a goal to bring him on, is he the man? Maybe not. But with a few injuries here and there, there's not many more options that we've got to come off the bench, is there? A few injuries and then the lack of squad depth we've got in genuine quality is highlighted somewhat. So it's great to see him back, though, because I think at times this season we have absolutely missed John Joe Shelby sitting in front of that back four, allowing Bruno to just edge a bit further, doing the old David Silva role. It'd be great to see him back fit. And I just don't know if tomorrow's the game for him. Maybe, if you could keep him, keep rebuilding his fitness, it might be a game. Will he be starting on Sunday?
That could be a game that they might have targeted for John Joe Shelby, but I'd love to see who starts that we've got Shelby.
Actually, doesn't he? He always gets freaking sent off against Spurs.
Yeah. It's only been sent off once against Spurs, hasn't he?
Twice.
Oh, yeah, last year. Oh, I forgot about that one. Ooh, that wasn't good.
No, great, was it?
Let's see. No, let's see who starts that we've got Shelby chant in the middle, though. That'll be an interesting one. Lee Lawler. Lee Lawler loves a chant. We'll get him at the start. Let's get Newcastle's 11 on from the game against Manchester United before we get the Premier League table. I definitely expect changes. I think Eddie Howe was kind of almost indicating in his press conference, Sam, that changes are going to be made. Let's play the game that me and Lee played on Friday. Can we guess Newcastle United's 11 to play? Everton. Right. Nick Pope's definitely going to be in goal. Does Jamal Lascelles come in for any of the 2 centre half? Yes or no?
I've been thinking about this, and I think it's a very big possibility. Even though Howe said shares in for share, Howe says shares fine, but I don't know. It would not surprise me to see Jamal Lascelles start tomorrow. Think back to Liverpool when we had 3 games in a week, and then all of a sudden, Lascelles is starting against Liverpool. It would not surprise me one bit to see Lascelles and Botman be the centre-back pairing.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That definitely would be. Dan Burn, there's obviously rumours that he probably might... I think he's 50-50 for the game. I heard there's a slight injury there with Dan Burn. So I'll say Matt Targett's a shoo-in to start at left-back. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. So you heard it here first. Jamal Lewis will be starting tomorrow night.
Yeah, for sure. So Nick Pope, Matt Targett, Sven Botman. We'll go Jamal Lascelles then. Well,
what's your viewpoint on it?
It wouldn't surprise me if Jamal Lascelles started, but I think because Shea and Botman have been so good, Lascelles might be the man that starts against Spurs. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll go with. Right back, Trippier every day of the week and twice on a Sunday.
Yes, please.
Midfield, Bruno, 100%. I think
Yes,
Willock
please.
starts if
I
he's
agree.
not ill. And then next to him, I think Joe Linton gets the nod over Sean, but I think Sean's been absolutely brilliant.
I agree with everything you've just said, and Joe Willock's been vastly underrated this season as well. He just needs that goal, doesn't he? Just to for the stat man, just to really make it more praiseworthy for him, because that's the only thing he's missing from his game at the minute, which is hard to believe when you think the start he had on that loan spell all them years ago now in the dark days. But Willock's been great. Sean's been great. The midfield. I know the defence has received a lot of praise in the past week or so, but the midfield is not to be overlooked either. To a man, they've been brilliant.
And then obviously the three players going forward, I think Callum Wilson to Shuin to start. I think Chris Wood's probably going to
say that. No, there is an argument to start Chris Wood in this one.
I would rather start Wood against Spurs because we've got more chance of beating Everton.
I 100% agree with you. 100%. But don't be surprised to see Chris Wood start tomorrow.
No, I wouldn't be, but I would go with Wilson tomorrow. But I would go Wilson. I'd go Wilson, Almiron, Fraser. I would drop Murphy on this one. Would you do the same?
Yes, 100%.
Be very, very interesting to see what happens. Let's get the Premier League table on, because Newcastle could go above Manchester United in the Premier League table because they play 45 minutes early before they play Tottenham tomorrow night. And again, Tottenham's going to be a tough game for Man United.
Straws, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, Newcastle at the minute are 6th in the table. There are 2 games that are on tonight on Amazon as well. The first game's already underway. That's Brighton versus Nottingham Forest. And then you've got Crystal Palace versus Wolves. Alan Shearer is on Crystal Palace versus Wolves, if you want to know that. But if Newcastle win tomorrow night...
Shearer's on a game all week. He's at a game. He's on Co-Coms tomorrow and Thursday.
Yeah, he's on Co-Coms from Man United, Spurs and Leicester Leeds. So make sure, if you're watching Amazon, make sure... Well, if you still want a bit of your football by the time Newcastle Everton's finished and we've had a good result and you want to watch or listen to the great man, he's on Man United versus Spurs. But if Newcastle win, they go above Manchester United for maybe a little short while, breathing down the neck of Chelsea into 4th. Could it potentially happen, Sam?
No, don't be silly. Softly, catchy monkey. Let's not get too carried away. It's very congested in there, isn't it? From Man United all the way down to sort of Fulham. So, there's not a lot. It's still early days, but it's been a fantastic start to the season. And these are the types of games that we do need to win to really kick on and make sure we are still in and around that hunt for the European spots come the time of the World Cup.
Yeah, definitely. If we go back to full screen, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. My first question is about potential, I was going to say changes, but we haven't really spoken about. Elliot Anderson, do you think you get more minutes tomorrow night?
Possibly, yeah. Now Max is completely out. This would be a game for him, wouldn't it, Elliot Anderson? There's the player with 20 minutes to go if you need a goal. That's who I'd be chucking on. So
would you start?
No.
I think it's an interesting one because I think it would galvanise the crowd even more if he did start. But I do take your point that maybe Fraser and Miggy are a safer bet at this moment in time.
Yeah, Fraser could do with a run of games. Murphy's done well, to be fair. He's not effective off the bench normally, is he, Jacob Murphy? That's why he's had a bit of stick so far this season. But he's done well in the games he's played. But yeah, this is one for Ryan Fraser, I think. Wilson and Fraser equals goals. Come on.
Let's get a prediction for tomorrow night then, Sam. What's going to happen?
2-0 Wilson and Bruno.
Ooh, interesting. I think Newcastle win. I think it's going to be close, though. I think Everton will make it very, very difficult for Newcastle. I think they'll be very similar to how they play against Spurs. If Jordan Pickford didn't make a little silly error with these little hands, Everton could have easily got a point.
Will he play? Because he normally gets dropped, doesn't he? He normally gets dropped for when Everton come to
I
St
think
James's.
I think he knows he's going to get a lot of stick, but I think he'll start. I've kind of got no qualms. I think he will start. I'll be amazed if he doesn't, unless he has picked up some random bug or he's miraculously injured. He will start for Everton tomorrow. I do not suspect Asmir Begovic will be getting his gloves on tomorrow.
He was on 5 Live the other night doing punditry.
Good for him. I'm going to go 2-1 Newcastle. I think Newcastle edge it, but I think it'll be a really close game. I think Anthony Gordon's going to have I think he's going to be a tough competitor, but I think Newcastle just about win it. It wouldn't surprise me if Wilson gets on the score sheet, mate. I think he's due a goal at St James's Park as well. So, yeah, I'm going to say Callum Wilson to score, Newcastle to win by 2 goals. To win. A lot of you in the comments are saying 2-0, 3-1, 2-1. So everyone's kind of expecting a Newcastle United win, which is absolutely fan-bloody-tastic. So, yeah, that is it. That is the preview for Everton for tomorrow night. Again, make sure you subscribe to Newcastle Fans TV. There'll be loads of content in regards to the match tomorrow. We'll have a match reaction, a watch along, and we've also got live scoring the players and the last word. You are a lucky bunch of people. And again, smash that bloody like, you magnificent people. And for those 93% of Newcastle fans that think we're going to win tomorrow night, we all love you too. From myself and Sam Milner, we will see you all very soon.